You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Archaeology Show. TAS goes behind the headlines to bring you the real stories about archaeology and the history around us. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Archaeology Show, episode 309.
On today's show, we talk about how early humans used fire, Viking King Bluetooth, and Odysseus's groupies.
Let's dig a little deeper.
To the fire?
Into the fire.
Put the fat into the fire?
Put the fat.
That's not what you say. That's not the right thing. Throw the fat on the fire?
I think you're in the fire.
Not just in the fire.
This intro's fire.
This intro is not fire.
Welcome to the show.
Hello.
I don't know why I sang it.
I don't know either.
It's the Archaeology Show musical.
Oh my God, that would be awful.
Yeah.
That is not something anybody wants to hear for sure.
Indeed. You know what else somebody doesn't want to hear?
Us talk about archaeology.
That was not our best segue.
That's not it.
That's not our best segue. People do like to hear about where we're at. If you don't, please write in negative comments because we love reading them on the air. So you're like, hey, get to the...
Let us know how much you hate us talking about our personal lives on our podcast.
Like, get to the archaeology, bees.
Did you get a recent comment or something that you haven't told me about?
I don't know. I haven't looked at them recently, but I'm still like a little...
It's okay.
You know.
It's fine. You know what? Our show's not for everybody, and we're okay with that. And if people don't like hearing us talk about the places that we're going and that
FYI,
kind of thing,
we're not going to talk about the article for at least 3 minutes right now.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. Because you know why? Because we are sitting in the front of our RV right now. Like, you're in the driver's seat.
Yep.
I'm in the passenger seat. And out our window, we have the most glorious, albeit cloudy, view of Seward. Not Seward. We're in Seward, of the mountains across the bay from Seward.
Yes.
It's gorgeous.
Okay.
Oh, are you going to take a picture of us now?
I am legit going to take a picture, and I'm going to post it while we're talking about it, because I always say that we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to include the recording of my computer in here just so you can see it. So you'll know that it was taken during the podcast recording.
Yeah.
So
you want to flip one around and do it of us like actually sitting here?
Yeah, you'll see our RV too.
Hold on.
All right. Okay, I'm boomerang up this shot right now.
We're going to edit all this out, so don't worry about it.
It wouldn't go because my finger was on it. All right, so.
Okay.
Yeah, Seward, Alaska. It's great. It's a little rainy here, but we're literally facing, like she said, the bay.
Yeah.
And there's a cruise ship over in the side, and we're just looking at snow-covered mountains, even though they're half covered in
clouds. They're the like little floaty clouds, you know, where they just gently go by and you can see the snowy peaks behind them. It's so pretty.
Yeah.
And apparently this is called Derby Cove, by the way, which is part of Resurrection Bay, the larger bay that Seward is all the way up in. So anyway, it's such a gorgeous area, and we got really lucky with these really amazing RV spots that we're in right now. So we're just taking in the views and talking about archaeology.
That's right. So we've got 3 news articles for you this week, and I'll let Rachel kick off the first one while I get these 2 pictures posted to our stories on Instagram for ArcPodNet.
Okay.
So Instagram,
all right. Real-time social media?
Real-time social media.
Very strange.
Yeah. Now, we record this weeks ahead of time. No, we don't. It's the day before it releases.
Well, okay. Like, full disclosure, just to get a little behind the scenes. Because we are trying to see Alaska in a summer, we are just constantly moving. So we went from Denali to Anchorage to Seward, all in a 2-day time frame here, which it's not very far, but there's just so much to do in all of those places. And we're just finding that, like, we have a lot going on and with the travel and everything. So it's not an excuse. It just is what it is. We're balancing making sure we're experiencing the places that we're going to as well as doing all the other things that we have to do.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, on to the actual archaeology here. Because there have been some really cool articles in the last couple weeks, and we haven't talked about articles in a little while because we were doing other topics. But we had, some cool stuff pop up that we didn't want to pass us by.
Exactly.
So this first article is from IFL Science, one of my favorite websites. I just really love these guys.
They do such a good job.
They do such a good job. They always have. And this article is called "Why Did Humans Start Using Fire?" ? New theory suggests it wasn't to cook food.
Right.
Now, I love articles like this because it feels like the most duh moment in the whole world. Like, when we get into why they weren't necessarily cooking their food, it's going to be like, well, duh, they had priorities that were bigger than just eating. Like, there was so much more going on in the life of an early human. So, of course, I'm going to just pause and wait for you to finish so that you can actually.
Yeah, okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
I'll pause it.
Okay.
What are we talking about?
Are you recording again?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's get into it. The article says that this new research challenges the idea that early humans first used fire mainly for cooking.
Yeah.
And that's because the common theory is that the use of fire to cook plants, meat, food, whatever, helped lead to a smaller digestive system, and then that would have in turn increased brain size for humans. It's called the cooking hypothesis.
Yeah.
It's like this complicated thing that all feeds together to help humans develop a larger brain, essentially.
Well, it didn't necessarily help humans. Let's be clear.
Right.
It ended up.
It ended up in that.
Or at least we think.
Yeah.
Ended up in us developing larger brains.
Yes. Yeah.
Because of the calorie intake and stuff like that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And while all that might be true,
yeah,
obviously early humans didn't have an end goal.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't trying to grow their brains. They weren't trying to shrink their digestive systems.
I know they're not sitting around going, dude, your brain is really small.
Right? Of course, right? So, they just were trying to survive in what was often probably a not very hospitable landscape. So this hypothesis is that rather than fire being used to cook their meals, it was actually to preserve the meat from the animals that they were hunting. Because, it's like faster
Feast.
It's like feast or famine, right? Because you hunt something, you kill something, it's very big, and you have a small amount of time to eat all that before it goes bad, unless you can find other techniques or ways to preserve it so you can hang on to it for a longer period of time.
Yeah, so that is the theory here, because they have archaeology sites older than 400,000 years, right? Mm-hmm. And these rarely show evidence of fire. First off, but when they do, because you have to have charred remains, you have to have charcoal bits in the soil. It's just really hard to detect that because water just seeping through, it just leaches everything out and it just goes away. So,
you're talking 400,000 years.
It's really hard.
For that evidence to last that long would be so rare to begin with.
One thing that could show up in that, if it wasn't, if it was either fossilized or if it was just preserved in a way like a cave, an arid environment, or didn't turn to dust, is bones. But there really is no sign of cooked bones in these fires, right? So if you're sitting around a fire and you're either A, cooking your meat, some of it is just you're gonna screw up.
Yeah.
We've all toasted a marshmallow too long and it dropped into the fire. Mm-hmm. We've all dropped a hot dog. It's just so your meat's just gonna fall in and you're gonna have cooked bones. Also, what do you do with the bones when you're done nomming on them?
That's what I would think, is that you finish eating, but you're not going to eat the bone. You crack it, you suck the marrow out, and you chuck the bits.
It in.
Chuck the bits that are left in the fire.
Unless you can whittle a thing out of it. Yeah, they used a lot of the bones. So.
Yeah, unless there's a reason to keep it.
But a lot of it could have ended up in the fire, and we have a lot of examples of that much later on.
Yeah.
It's a very common thing to find charred bones in fires.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But back then, even though there's limited quantities of these available, these sites with these things, with these fire evidence, we just don't find that.
Yeah.
Not very often.
And sites with early fire do have large quantities of big animal bones, like elephants and hippos, of course, because those would have provided a lot of calories as a major source of food for early humans.
Mm-hmm.
But the bones aren't charred.
Yeah.
They're processed by humans. They're used by humans. They were eaten by humans, but they weren't charred. And so the researchers are proposing that the fire was used to smoke and dry large quantities of the meat, which would help them store it for longer periods, which means that they can go longer between hunting and they could focus on, migration. If they needed to move, they could
Yeah.
have food to take with them, or maybe take the food back to a population that's not able to move, because they're probably spreading out a large area to find the game that they're hunting, and they need to bring it back to the people that can't move. So there's just lots of different pieces going on, and being able to transport the food is kind of like the genius of early humans, really. Is figuring out a way to process the food so they could transport it, and smoking would have done that.
I always like to think of how people first figured this out, and I just think of them living in a rock shelter, or even a more rare cave environment, probably more likely a rock shelter, something enclosed-ish, like that. They would have figured out pretty early on that animals were afraid of fire.
Yeah.
Right? Once they started figuring fire out, they'd be like, okay, well, we figured it out, but the animals are afraid of this. So they would have taken their kills and, while they're sitting around the fire, just like put it there.
Yeah.
And process it, start doing stuff with it. And then, if they had to go or leave or do something, they probably just left the fire burning.
Yeah.
And
protect
maybe
their
right, getting smoky in there. It's next to the fire. It's not really cooking, but it's, getting
cooking.
close.
Yeah.
And I just think it happened by accident, but they're like, hey, this meat tastes pretty good, not slimy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's so genius. And it just makes so much sense to me, because if you're getting the benefit that you need out of eating the meat raw, then there's no reason to stop doing that.
Yeah.
But there is a reason to figure out how to preserve it and keep larger quantities for a longer time. And that is it's just so duh, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that it's just the most obvious thing in the world that would be what drove fire and food, not the actual cooking. It's just duh. Of course, it makes so much sense. I love it.
And we mentioned 400,000 years ago, but the researchers for this article reviewed existing literature for known prehistoric sites, and there are 9 that they looked at that dated between 1.8 million and 800,000 years.
Wow.
And they found evidence of fire use on these sites. So they looked at ones that were of an age with fire use.
Right.
And they found them. And this is where they're developing this theory from, because there was no reported bones in the fire or anything like that, but other animals in existence at the site, so kind of fits that possible hypothesis. Of course, we'll never really know, but it's what else would they have been doing? It's kind of like there's not too many possibilities. And when you start eliminating sort of the impossible ones and the ones that don't make any sense, you're left with just a few things.
Well, sure. And there's always the humans be humans piece of it too, right? So there might have been one group that just, for whatever reason, all preferred to cook or process or smoke or whatever their food in a certain way, and that just became the cultural, thing that they did. And that's just so impossible to know. The archaeological record is not going to share those kind of details with us. So we can just speculate, dream, come up with stories, write the narrative, but it's all just stories and speculation. But this is kind of cool because it's very logical that this is how the smoking of meat would have developed for people. And then the cooking piece came later. Makes sense, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about basically a CRM project in Denmark and how they were finding ancient circuit boards beneath the ground, apparently. I don't know. We'll have to dig into it a little deeper.
I don't know about that one, but okay.
Dig a little deeper.
Oh, my God.
Back in a minute. Welcome back to episode 309 of the Archaeology Show. The musical episode.
We don't sing.
Sing a little bit.
We don't sing. You can sing if you want. I don't sing.
Okay, so what are these circuit boards that people were finding? Well,
not them at all, actually.
No.
Not circuit boards at all.
Oh,
no.
Bluetooth technology. That's what they found.
No,
right.
Not that either.
So, anyway, archaeologists in Denmark discovered a gravesite possibly linked to Viking King Harald. And his name was King Harald Bluetooth Gormson, and we'll talk about that in a second, why his nickname was Bluetooth.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that in a minute.
But it is where the Bluetooth
name
comes from, and we'll explain where that comes from too. But
we've got more of that.
Yeah, but that's where your circuit board jokes keep coming from.
Listen, don't explain the jokes.
Sometimes your jokes need explaining, okay? I'm always here to laugh at your
Our
jokes.
listeners are smart, and otherwise they wouldn't be listening to this, and they know my jokes.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. They do know.
the only problem is right now they're laughing so hard that they have to pause and rewind.
Oh, are you
to
sure
listen.
about that?
Yeah, I
Okay,
am.
cute.
So the son of King Gorm the Old, which I think is a really unfortunate nickname, like
The old.
the Old, yes.
Well, at a certain point, you just become known for being old, I guess.
That's-
That's kind of like goals, right?
Did he do
Like if
anything
you
else?
get to be so old that like you're just known for being old, like
Yeah, but
you're
we
there.
We don't do that
You've made
anymore,
it.
though. It's just like Steve the Old.
Did you pick Steve out because that's your dad's name?
Yeah, I did.
You can tell
I
him
did.
that.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Anyway, he ruled over Denmark and Norway from 958 to 986 CE and allegedly earned his nickname from a conspicuously colored tooth. Yes.
So like a dead tooth situation?
Uh,
Kind of gray,
conspicuously colored.
blue-ish?
Yeah,
Okay.
so-
All right, going
Now,
on
he
with that.
wasn't the old, of course. This is the son of
Yes,
King
this
Gorm
is
the Old.
son. Yeah.
Yeah, this is Harold.
Yeah.
The site in question here contained about 30 graves, some of which had high-status Viking artifacts, weapons, jewelry, and a cross-shaped pendant showing Christian influence.
Yep.
Getting in there.
Starting to pop up right
Yep.
around that time. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
The findings included a gold-threaded box, pearls, coins, ceramics, and even a pair of scissors that would have likely been owned by an important noblewoman of the time. So,
Yes.
very cool. Cool grave goods for sure.
I didn't mention, but this article comes from Popular Science, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, there's a lot of good articles on here. However,
Mhm.
I think I was blocked from seeing this. Oh, no, it's the next one I was blocked from. I only saw it because I have Apple News Plus. That's what we have, and you can see a lot of stuff. It was the Popular Mechanics one that's next that I couldn't actually read on their website.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it wanted me
Blocked
to.
from it, huh?
Yeah, I think I've gotten too many free articles from there,
Oh,
and it wanted me to sign up. But I'm already
Mechanics.
signed up through Apple News Plus, which kind of irritates me. I wanted to try to go just whatever. Anyway, so anyway, the box itself that was found is a particularly remarkable find, as experts believe it's only the third confirmed example of its kind. So that's kind of cool.
and human remains such as bones and teeth were also found at the site, along with smaller, less ornate graves that possibly held an elite family's enslaved workers.
Yeah. So good job. Your masters died, so we're going to kill you now too, so you can join them in death.
I mean, I guess they don't necessarily have to have been enslaved. They could have just been, the paid workers too. So
Sure.
yeah. Again, jumping to conclusions, but not jumping, but drawing conclusions.
So Bluetooth's cultural and territorial influence is famously symbolized by what's called the Jelling Stone, which is a large rune stone erected in its namesake town by the king in 965 CE. So I guess there's a town called Jelling. I don't know. That's what I got out of that. I didn't really look any further into it.
Yeah.
But the Jelling Stone, yeah. The runes on this stone actually are what are going to come into the Bluetooth symbol that we know today for the Bluetooth technology. But anyway, he is also known for uniting Denmark and Norway and for inspiring the name of Bluetooth technology. As we mentioned earlier, I'll get into a little bit more later how that comes
Where that
in.
name
But
comes from. Yeah.
But it's the uniting of Denmark and Norway that kind of led the phone company that did this to do that.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And the burial reflects a mix of Norse traditions and emerging Christian practices during the 10th century.
Mhm.
So it is this like, I don't know, kind of coming together of different cultures, different places, different people, and sort of developing into what would be early Christianity in this area.
Yep, the discovery gives rare physical context to a major historical figure and illustrates the cultural transition of the Viking Age. So, yep. So about the Bluetooth legacy.
Yeah.
Bluetooth is named, of course, after this guy.
Yeah.
And he was known for uniting these, as it said, uniting, but what he specifically united with the warring Danish tribes into a single kingdom and converting them to Christianity. This is what his big claim to fame is.
It's the uniting piece of it that's important here.
Yeah, because the creators of Bluetooth, which was basically Ericsson, the company Ericsson Telephone, They make smartphones and things like that.
Must be Nordic, I would guess.
We
right?
see Ericsson here, but we don't really see them much anymore, right? It's they may have been purchased by Nokia, actually. I don't remember. But anyway, they're a Danish or Norwegian company. And but they were the creators of Bluetooth technology, Ericsson was.
Yeah.
And they wanted a name that symbolized unification as their technology was designed to connect different devices and systems.
Yeah.
Getting a little philosophical here for them.
I don't know. I kind of love it because it is sort of completely random.
Yeah.
To pick out the name Bluetooth out of history, right?
And the funny thing is there was probably some archaeology nerd like on the staff because Bluetooth was actually a code name during development.
Yeah.
But no better option was chosen before launch. So they just like stuck with it.
I mean, they wanted to show unification, right?
Yeah.
So I guess it makes sense.
And the Nordic rune for the letter B is also featured prominently on King Bluetooth's gelling stone, and that combined with the Nordic runes for his initials, H and B basically, is what give you the Bluetooth technology symbol.
No way.
Yeah.
Are you serious? I need to go look at my phone right now. Hold on. Okay, I'm looking. Oh my God, it totally does. So it's like, so like, okay, everybody pick up your devices and go look at your little Bluetooth symbol. And it's like, the left side of it is the two little
doopies.
pokey out doopies, right? This is
from the H.
This is great. That's from the H, and then the little sideways mountains or flags on the right side.
This is something.
The little triangles.
There's hand signals to go along with this, people.
Those are the P's. I love that. I think that is so like weird and historical and nerdy and perfect. I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just hope that, one thing he gained throughout his life because he had all this unification, he seemed very popular. Do you think he had groupies? Groupies. Like fans?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if he did or not. But one guy that did probably was Odysseus. Of course. We're going to talk about him on the other side. Welcome back to the Archaeology Show, episode 309. And we're talking about groupies. No, so this article, again, from Popular Mechanics, and if you can't read it or you don't have a subscription.
Oh, I can't read it either.
Yeah. Yeah. If you do have an iPhone and you have Apple News, you can try to find it there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're linking to it through there. Yeah. We're linking to the regular article, but I guess if you find it on Apple News, I don't know if you have to have Apple News Plus or not. But
we can put the Apple News link in as well.
Yeah.
So we'll have both of them linked in the show notes, so you can just use whichever one works for you. Or if neither of them work, then you can just rely on us to share that information correctly, and we will do our best.
So, archaeologists on Ithaca in Greece have identified a site they believe functioned as a shrine or hero cult location dedicated to Odysseus. And he is, of course, the legendary figure from Homer's Odyssey, so completely fictional. This discovery was made after years of excavations and analysis.
That's just so crazy to me. That was going to be my first question. It's like, we're sure Odysseus was fictional, right?
Well, at least the what they were worshiping, the idea that they were worshiping was definitely
totally fictional. Like he might have been like somewhat pulled on bits and pieces from a real person, maybe, but
the things that he did were impossible and fictional.
Yeah.
But people just like still either A, kind of believed it, or B, just wanted it to be true.
They just wanted it to be true, or didn't care if it wasn't true. They just, It
always reminds me. This reminds me of like A Knight's Tale, the movie.
Oh yeah.
Because you had like the groupies and the fans, and I remember I actually watched the director's cut on that one, and because I had the DVD.
I was gonna say it was one of those situations where like you owned 10 DVDs. Like that was one of them, probably, like back in the day.
I actually owned like 300 DVDs. It was college. I had nothing else to do.
You would.
Yeah. So anyway, I watched the director's cut, and they were like, they put that in, and they had people selling like snacks in the stands and stuff like that. And, And it was like, this is during, medieval times, like jousting events. And they're like, well, like, why wouldn't this have happened? You know, they wanted to treat it like a modern, like football or, soccer or some sort of event, modern sporting event.
Yeah.
They're like, why wouldn't people have done this back then?
Right.
You've got these people that travel around and do this thing and they become well known. Like they would have had fans.
Yeah.
And this is actually, 1,000 years before that. And of course, we're finding evidence of fans and groupies. So I totally believe it.
Well, we talked about it in the Gladiator episode too.
Yeah, totally.
In the movie, right?
Oh, and they said definitely people latched onto these gladiators.
They did.
And like worshiped them as heroes.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
What are all these guys doing?
He's laying on his back.
Is he floating? Look at him.
Yes.
He's so cute.
All right. You need to pay attention. We're almost done.
Cute little otters. Okay.
So this site, referred to as the Odysseus, contains significant artifacts, including roof tiles inscribed with Odysseus' name and a bronze bust believed to represent this hero figure. These finds suggest intentional veneration of Odysseus at this location.
Again, like we have often found with these kind of articles, skeptical of the Getty Images photos.
Oh my God. They're so
That are
stupid.
in them, because I found the article on
Yeah.
Apple News and I'm like, that's not this.
I mean, a little
Okay.
bit of a tangent here. I was just looking at news today, and there was something about an Atlantis site, possibly an Atlantis-like site found north of Australia,
Uh-huh.
and the Getty image is an underground series of temples, underwater
series of temples.
And I'm like, seriously?
Like,
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
This is not good journalism.
I know. I really hate when they do that, and it's such a push pull situation, because sometimes they're communicating cool and interesting information,
But it's
like this
clickbait.
article. But
Total clickbait.
yeah, but it's like somebody said, "Oh, we must have images to go with this article, and we don't have permission to use the real images, so therefore,
Oh, no.
go find something that looks like it kind of works."
No, I totally disagree. The real images are too boring.
Oh, well, that's entirely
Yeah.
possible. Yeah.
No, they want people to think Atlantis.
They are. Sometimes they are. Yeah.
And I'm surprised they even use Getty images. Why not just AI that crap?
Yeah. At this point,
Make me Atlantis.
if you stop seeing a Getty Images stamp on it,
Oh, God.
and but the image looks too good to be true, AI.
Made by Chad.
Yeah.
Chad
AI
GPT.
is really changing our world, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway.
this shrine is located in Agios and Athanasios. Agios Athanasios, within the village of Exogi, an area long associated with Homeric legend and tradition. Since the 19th century, scholars have referred to this area as the School of Homer, linked it to the epic's origins.
So this area is basically like ground zero for Homer groupies and people who were super into the things that he wrote.
Yeah.
Basically.
Sounds like it.
I mean, I guess it makes sense that if you're going to have a cult somewhere,
Yeah.
it would be here, right?
I like to think, too, that since I would assume most people back then couldn't read unless they were educated, the elite, and most of them even probably didn't have to read.
Yeah.
Why would they?
Yeah.
But either way.
Yeah, it's not like there's books or novels that they're just
Right.
picking up.
So somebody's like orating this tale,
Yeah.
out somewhere, and people are listening to it, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, archaeological evidence at the site spans a broad timeline. Artifacts date from the Mycenaean era, 13th to 14th century BC, through the Hellenistic period and into early Roman times, indicating the site's continued importance and use for many centuries. Many centuries.
Many centuries.
So, anyway.
And during the Mycenaean era, the site likely played a strategic role overseeing access to local ports, farmland, and water resources in northwestern Ithaca, which would have been vital for the local community and travelers. Reading this stuff is really hard. There's too many words. To me, I have to actually read it to know what it's saying, and then I can't make up my own thing.
Yeah, sorry, editors. Take that out.
Editor. Sorry, Rachel.
Sorry, Rachel.
Sorry, Chris.
Sorry, editor
Chris.
persons. Oh, fuck. No, why me?
What?
I wanted to do this on Friday.
What?
All right.
Yeah.
This discovery aligns with ancient inscriptions from Asia Minor here that reference games and rituals held in Odysseus' honor, supporting the idea that such hero cults existed and played a part in Greek religious life. And while the findings do not provide direct evidence for the historical existence of Odysseus himself, they do confirm that ancient Greeks believed in his legend and traveled to this site to honor him, demonstrating the powerful cultural impact of Homer's stories.
I'm trying to figure out like a modern equivalent of this. Because it's like hero worship of a fictional character. Is it kind of like the Dragon Con or not Comic Con or Dragon Con or whatever, where people like dress up like the fictional characters, something like that?
Yeah, literally every video game, comic book movie, everything where people
really get into the stories and the characters and I'm not going to say it's a worshiping situation. Like people at Comic Con don't worship
much anymore, but
yeah.
I mean, go to a suburban neighborhood on Halloween and you'll find out who the current hero worshipers are.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Especially like with kids and stuff, because
Well, that's what I mean. Generally not the adults, but you never know.
Well, no, but like
not on Halloween.
Not on Halloween
in a neighborhood.
Yeah, but adults get into it too, and it's just it is kind of crazy to think about that. I feel like there's always with modern culture. Yes, people do get super obsessed and into fictional things, right? Of course that happens. But most people still have a line between what's real and what's fiction. I think they do. Most everybody knows. Like there's some people that really do get close to that line, but I might be wrong about this. I don't know. I may benefit of the doubt and all that. But these cultures seem like they're kind of crossing the line into this place where they're worshiping something that is fictional. Do they know it's fictional?
Yeah.
Are they happy to go ahead and worship anyway, even though it is fictional, because they don't care, because they're that excited and interested in it? Like, I'm just trying to figure out how that works from like a human brain and mindset standpoint. It's a very interesting cultural phenomenon that I don't think is super common, at least not today. But maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know.
Pause for a second. Yeah, so this discovery is also notable. And speaking of what you're saying here, like with this whole hero worship thing, because there's a renewed interest in Homeric tales in popular culture, including the development of a new major adaptation of the Odyssey.
Yeah.
It says 2026 if you go to IMDb, and it says it follows Odysseus in his perilous journey home after the Trojan War, showcasing his encounters with Polyphemus, the Sirens, Circe, and finishing with his reunion with his wife Penelope. And there is a few people attached to this, and it looks like Matt Damon is going to play Odysseus.
Yes! I am so here for that.
Yeah. It says Anne Hathaway's also in it, and Tom Holland, and Robert Pattinson.
Okay.
Robert Pattinson will just be brooding in the corner doing nothing.
Excuse me.
Charlize
Leave my
Theron.
man alone, okay?
Zendaya. Like an all-star cast here.
Okay, and now I remember where I heard about this movie already, because I had already heard about it. It's because the most recent episode of The Past Macabre, which is back from its spring-summer hiatus, is with Claire Lyons, who is the curator of antiquities at the Getty.
Oh.
And they're putting together a whole thing about the Kingdom of Philos. Anyway, part of what their exhibit has is stuff that is related to this whole Odysseus thing. It's all related. So go listen. I'm not going to try to cover it right now because I don't remember all the details off the top of my head. But go listen to her episode. We'll link it in the show notes, and you can learn more about this site there as well.
All right. Well, that's about it for that. You guys can go off and hero worship us for a little while. And you
for the love of God, do not do that. That's the worst thing you've ever said.
You can do that by going to ArcPodNet or archaeologypodcastnetwork.com. And this is our newly redesigned website because we upgraded our Squarespace site.
It looks really good.
Yeah. And our people, our social media person, and our producer, who both are into the whole website thing, Ash and Tilly, they have spent some time really doing this upgrade.
Yeah,
so
it looks great.
Yeah, take a look at it. But you can go up to the menu bar up at the top, and you can see our merch and go to our store and buy some of the stuff. Like in the picture I shared to stories on Instagram, I'm wearing our APN 10 shirt, which is our 10th anniversary shirt. And I'm also wearing the hat, actually, the APN hat, so which you can't actually get on that store. Oh, no, you can now.
Can you?
Yeah, I got this somewhere else, but you can get that on because you couldn't get hats on the store for a long time.
Yeah.
But then now you can. So anyway, go there, check it out. Go follow us on social media, arcpodnet.com. ArcPodNet on Instagram, and we're also on X, and we're also on TikTok, I believe. But I don't know if she's actually posting over there that much anymore.
Don't.
Yeah, I haven't really got there yet. But Tilly, our social media person, is doing some fantastic stuff on Instagram. She is just really knocking it out of the park.
Yeah. So go follow there, and then the Discord thing too. That's a place
Discord.
for going to chat and
our Discord
share
server,
opinions and things like that.
Our Discord server is completely free. You can go there, chat with some of the hosts that are in there, and definitely other, not just members of the APN. So membership is available, but just people
who want to talk
to anyone.
This kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's open to anyone.
Yep.
So, and Discord is a free application you can download to check that out. So.
Yep.
All right. With that, we will see you next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Archaeology Show. Feel free to comment and view the show notes on the website at www.arcpodnet.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at ArcPodNet. Music for this show is called I Wish You Would Look from the band Sea Hero. Again, thanks for listening and have an awesome day. The Archaeology Podcast Network is 10 years old this year. Our executive producer is Ashley Airy, our social media coordinator is Matilda Siebrecht, and our chief editor is Rachel Roden. The Archaeology Podcast Network was co-founded by Chris Webster and Tristan Boyle in 2014 and is part of Cultural Media and DigTech LLC.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.arcpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.